What is going on, everyone? I hope everyone is having an excellent weekend. Appreciate you tuning in to the Sports Objective right now via Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. Or if you're going back and watching this archived on any of those platforms, or you can, of course, always find our show pretty much anywhere podcasts are found, including but not limited to Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, and Spotify. We're continuing on with our NCD1 baseball preview. We've caught up with 13 head coaches from around the state of North Carolina. And right now, we're very excited to preview the Wake Forest Demon Deacons as we welcome back to the show their analyst on the ACC Network Plus, and that is, of course, Lary Sorensen. Larry, we appreciate your time this afternoon.
Well, always happy to talk baseball, and I love that music. It gets the blood going a little bit. Less than 2 weeks away now. Let's get after it.
Yeah, no doubt. We're here, like you said, under 2 weeks to first pitch as Wake Forest, and we'll have, as we were just discussing a moment ago, Lafayette as well as Georgetown, and also Virginia Commonwealth, the VCU Rams coming in on opening weekend to Winston-Salem, to, I guess, is David Couch Ballpark now.
David Couch Ballpark, absolutely right. The couch is what the players call it, and the players spend a lot of time there. They redid the locker room and the facility a couple of years ago, put about $12 million into it, and so it's got the players' lounge, fabulous locker room, rates with any major league locker room that I've been around, got a nutrition center and indoor facilities that the players use. It's a really nice place to hang out.
Until I was preparing for this interview, I was not aware of that renaming of the facility.
Yeah, it's really something special, and the Herd Performance Center as well. So they got some of the alumni to really get behind it, and Wake Forest itself has undergone tremendous changes with the athletic facilities, with the Sutton Performance Center and Mcgraw and the facilities that they've got with the indoor facility for football. And I think it's paid off. You've seen that the football team and the basketball team have had record-setting years, and baseball is hoping to jump on that bandwagon as well. They're really excited. The student body has gotten behind the athletic program much more than in past years, and so they're anxious to get baseball going too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this baseball program has had so much success under Coach Walter. Last year, though, pretty surprising, a 20-27 overall mark. So before we dive into this year's club, tell us about kind of what happened in the way 2021 went, and what were some of those reasons the Demon Deacons had that surprising losing record.
Last year was just really bizarre. It started off losing 2 out of 3 to Notre Dame, and then down to Miami, where they didn't even have enough players to finish the series. They only played 2 games and had to call off Sunday's game because they said they just didn't have enough arms left because of injury situations and disease and so on and so forth. So it got off to a bad start, losing 4 out of 5. And never really came back from there. Hit 91 home runs, the most of any team in Division I in the Power 5 conferences in the regular season, but did not make the conference postseason tournament, which is really unbelievable. Had trouble throwing strikes, had trouble catching the ball, was really the basis of the problem.
So as we turn toward 2022, just tell us some of those key pieces of the roster, what returns, and then we'll get into maybe some of the new additions that can make an impact here early on.
Well, I think as much as anything else, it's going to be a young team on the pitching staff in particular, a couple of sophomores and a freshman probably in the starting rotation to start things off. But when you look at the club, you look at Brock Wilkin, the third baseman that was named as prospect in the Cape League last summer as a sophomore. Had a terrific year, 17 home runs, 44 RBIs, hit about 280. But really a terrific-looking player, rated as, I think, the number 2 prospect in the country for the 2023 draft. And just a terrific kid, has really taken on a leadership role this year, really looking to improve himself all the time. Came in as a freshman, had a little trouble coming in on balls, just wasn't quite used to the speed of the ACC. And it took about 3 weeks or so and a couple of mistakes. But then all of a sudden it was like a light switch flipped. And all of a sudden he started coming in aggressively. And he picks up on his mistakes. He makes adjustments. Third baseman, I think he's going to have a fantastic year for Wake. Michael Turconi is going to play shortstop. He had some arm problems last year, which led to some defensive problems. He had a lot of trouble throwing. He spent some time injured and DH'd. But he'll be at shortstop, anchoring the infield, and he's one of the veteran guys. He's got a little bit more time in, so that'll be one of your leaders as well on the infield. Left side looks pretty solid. Second baseman is a young man that came in the fall as a freshman named Danny Corona, who was a draft pick and would have been a higher draft pick, but kind of indicated that he was going to college. Looks like he's going to nail down the second base spot, and he's just one of those kids. You know, the scout in me comes out, and the former player in me comes out when you watch him move, and you say, this is a kid that really has a chance to be something special in the years that he spends. He just carries himself like an athlete, really can swing it, probably switch over to shortstop next year, but a naturally gifted, talented athlete and somebody to really keep an eye on. So those are in the infield. First base is going to be a dogfight to see who's going to play there. They've got some guys to replace Bobby Seymour, who took his 21 home runs and went off to play pro ball. But there will be some competition at first base, and that'll be fun to watch till they get it sorted out. And the big thing, Bubba, they've got to get it sorted out in a hurry, because they start off, they jump right into the fray. They've got Florida State, Georgia Tech, and then Virginia, the first 3 ACC weekends. So the team that's picked first in the Atlantic, the team that's picked first in the Coastal, and the team that's picked second in the Coastal are their first 3 weekends of the season in ACC play.
Yeah, very difficult start for the Demon Deacons, and we'll talk a little bit more about the schedule later on. But before we do that, you gave us a great look at the infield, and you shift out to the outfield, and continue to tell us about things positionally before we dive into the pitching staff.
Yeah, in the outfield, a freshman last year, Lucas Costello was terrific. He hit about 280, but played really solid defense in kind of an unspectacular way. And then you realized all of a sudden he was in a position you didn't expect him to be. You just didn't realize he got there that quick. So he had a great year freshman. He'll be back anchored down in center field. Left field looks like Adam Cesare is a big, strong left-handed, got some outfield power, hits a lot like Bobby Seymour did. He hits that gap in left center field. The ball jumps off his bat, and of course, it's a little bit of a short port in right. He weighs about 285 or so, lost some weight, actually trimmed down, reshaped his body, working with Mark Seaver, the strength and fitness coordinator, and reshaped his body a little bit. So it looks like he's got the inside track on left. And then right field will be kind of a mix and match a little bit. Pierce Bennett might get some time at second base or right field. And they've got some youngsters that are going to see some time. And right field is like first base, it's like right now. Let's put some different guys out there, give them different opportunities, and see who comes out and wins the job.
Now let's take a look at the pitching staff. What returns as far as the weekend rotation, and how's that shaping up here less than 2 weeks from first pitch?
Well, last year they had 11 guys out of the 17 guys on the staff that they said threw 95 or better, which is just phenomenal. It's unbelievable. The problem was they were hitting that Durham back by the stop sometimes, and the control issues were a little bit of a problem for the staff last year. New pitch coach this year, Koskara, comes in, and he'll be focusing a little bit more and all around to defense, and going more strike is going to be the focus of this year's team. Defensively, Wake had a tough year last year. They walked too many people last year. The idea is get the ball to the plate, trust your fielders a little bit more. 2 sophomores and a freshman. Rhett Lauder will probably be the Friday night starter. He moved into that spot as a freshman last year. Kid that's got terrific off-speed stuff. Fell in love with his changeup a little bit in fastball counts. And, of course, in the ACC, that word gets around pretty quick, and guys started sitting on it. But he's got a arm. He'll get up to 93 to 95 with really good command of his off-speed stuff. Teddy Mcgraw is going to be behind him either Saturday or Sunday, depending. They may mix in the left-hander in between 2 right-handers. But Teddy Mcgraw is a kid that can get up to 99 or so with a power slider, about 2,900 RPMs on his slider. So good, hard, tight spin. Command issues were a little bit of a problem for him last year, but he had a good summer and looks like he's going to settle into one of the starting roles. And then the young man from Reagan High School in Winston-Salem that committed early, in fact, told the draft people to stay away from him, a left-hander, about 6'3", 210 pounds, Josh Hartle, who would have been a number 1 draft pick, had a very high number that he was going to ask for in the draft, and finally said, don't bother drafting me, and enrolled in the summer. So he'll probably take up the 3rd spot, whether he goes Saturday or Sunday, depending on how they set the rotation, right, left, right, or if they go right, right, left. But three terrific arms, young though. They're going to be very young in the starting rotation. Eric Adler, All-American, preseason All-American out of the bullpen, comfortable at 95, very comfortable at 95. Good breaking stuff as well. He'll be the closer. Cam Manassi and Brendan Oxford will be setting him up. Oxford from the left side, Manassi from the right side, and they both have power arms as well. You know, they've got that pitching lab that Wake Forest has that was one of the newest labs in the country about 4 years ago when they developed it. And they hang their hat on it. They study the movement. They increase players and develop pitchers. And that's one of the things they hang their hat on. So that's kind of the top 7 or so, 6 or 7 guys on the pitching staff, but power arms all the way around.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. Beyond those guys, I don't know how much you've had the chance to dive into it, but just tell us beyond that top 6 or 7, exactly how much depth they have. You referenced what they had a season ago, but obviously with the 5-game weeks, you got to have several starters that you feel good about, and then also just arms that you can run out there, so you don't use your top relief guys, save them for the weekend.
Yeah, they've got a Seth Keener, a young man from Pilot Mountain. Looks like he's coming along very nicely. Will Muscolo is another young man that Reed Muscolo is a young man whose brother had also played at Wake, and he's got some potential to start. Keener maybe a little bit more out of the bullpen. And then the freshman, who knows? Hartle is certainly going to be the star and the guy that everybody's going to be focused on when he comes in, because he's the guy that had the 25 to 28 scouts at every high school game that he pitched, and they're expecting a lot of innings out of him at a very early age. And Lauder is another young man that should be soaking up the innings as well.
Going back to things positionally, you've referenced just a moment ago some of the freshmen. Are there any freshmen positionally that you see factoring into the equation and getting significant innings?
Bubba, catcher's going to be a really interesting spot. Brendan Tinsman is back as a junior, and he's done a lot of catching his first couple of years, but he's also had a lot of injuries. Broken bone in his hand, had a hamate bone removed. He's just had some trouble staying healthy. And he probably will be their number 1 guy starting out. But there's a couple of Frenchmen, Chris Katz and Gio Cueto, that they brought in 2 freshman catchers, and they should probably see an awful lot of time too. Katz might see some outfield time. Wilkin could see some time behind home plate as well. He's got the capability to go behind home plate. So a lot of it, those preseason games for Wake Forest this year are going to be really important because they're young. They're going to have to find some guys that can come in and contribute. Last year, maybe a little bit of junioritis. They had a lot of guys that, because of the 5-round draft, some guys weren't drafted 2 years ago and back for another year, and really were focused on the draft, maybe a little bit more than playing the game, and it cost them just a little bit. So I think that this year you're going to see some young, hungry players and a lot of competition for spots. And when you got competition for spots, you got guys that are really going all out to try to get some playing time.
One of the things that really stood out to me about Wake Forest's schedule, we referenced opening weekend, you have Lafayette, Georgetown, and VCU, and then you have a midweek game against UNCG, who should be pretty challenging under third-year head coach Billy Godwin. But with the exception of the 4-game series against New Jersey Tech, the weekend non-conference games are pretty much single games. And for instance, on that first weekend of March, you also have UMass Lowell, Central Michigan, and Coastal Carolina. So just talk about that rather than playing series in those non-conference weekends.
Well, one of the things that Tom Walter really tries to do is he tries to play everybody in the state, and the state has such great baseball. You look at Coastal, you look at ECU, you look at some of the schools in Charlotte, Greensboro. All those cities have terrific programs, and schools have terrific programs. Western Carolina. So he really is a big believer in trying to give everybody in the state a chance to play, and play a couple games at a neutral location as well, so that people that don't always have a college playing that caliber of baseball can see some better baseball and see some really good teams come in and play. So they'll play a lot of the local schools and kind of share it, take that ACC flavor to some of the other locales and let everybody have a chance. And because the competition is so good, sometimes you pay the price a little bit with your one loss record, but you also have to help that RPI at the end of the year.
Yeah, you talk about the you mentioned earlier some of the ACC series that the Demon Deacons have on the docket. You have the likes of Florida State and Virginia coming to Winston-Salem. You also have Duke, who's been so good under Chris Pollard. Always enjoy our chat with him. He's done unprecedented things, to say the least, with that Blue Devils program.
You know, the programs are really very similar. The schools are very similar with what they have to do, the way they have to recruit, because the academic standards are so difficult to get into there. And then the tuition is a whole different thing. You know, you think about giving a kid the minimum quarter ride of a scholarship. Well, 25% of the $20,000 it costs you to go to North Carolina State is a lot different than 25% of the $80,000 it costs you to go to Duke or Winston or to Wake Forest. So you're recruiting a different kind of kid, and they take the academics very seriously. They take the graduation rates extremely seriously at Wake Forest. They had 11 programs last year that graduated 100% of their kids within 6 years. They've got some terrific grad programs. And this year, Wake Forest will have 12 freshmen come in and 7 transfers, which is a little bit unusual. But they're transferring from people from places like Harvard and from Stanford and Michigan and schools like that. So you're seeing an awful lot of kids that play at elite academic schools that are transferring in as well.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting topic. That's actually something I had not planned on discussing. We have discussed it with a lot of the head coaches we've had on, but since you've had those conversations with Coach Walter at Wake Forest, just generally speaking, and then specifically regarding Wake, what are his thoughts? I'm sure you've probably discussed it about the transfer portal.
You know, it's changed, but you still have to get them into the school, and that's why you'll see kids, generally speaking, from schools of higher levels of academia that are transferring in because Wake doesn't play games. They don't have, they aren't sliding a lot of people in through the back door to get in academically. And like I said, they believe if you come to Wake Forest, you're going to graduate. And when you list the things of importance to Tom Walter, going to Omaha is usually about third or fourth on his list of their priorities when they bring kids in. So, you know, it's a terrific academic school, very family oriented, and they like to have the legacies and everything else. But if you come, you better be ready to hit the books because you're not going to slide by.
As we know, the ACC is always so challenging. Depending on the polls, there's so many college baseball polls, and there's about 5 or 6 that you typically see. Such as D1 baseball, collegiate baseball, Baseball America, etc. But in order for the Demon Deacons to get back to where they had been in previous seasons prior to last year, just what are 2 or 3 things that you're really going to have to see improvement from if that's going to happen?
I think defense is the first thing that they have to improve on, and I think that it can be done. Last year, it seemed like some players were taking their bats out to the field with them, and the concentration levels weren't always there defensively that you expect them to be. I think there's a different kind of leadership this year, and I think that a lot of it comes on the defensive side of the baseball. I think that's going to make a difference. I think people are going to be rejuvenated a little bit by the approach Corey Muscola is going to bring to the pitching staff. John Hendricks did a terrific job, but had more of a professional approach to it and wasn't quite as familiar with the pitching lab and all the numerics that go along with and the metrics that go along with college baseball and professional baseball these days. And I think that you'll see some of the players will buy into that year. So I think there's plenty of room for improvement. It starts on the mound, as always, and that starts with throwing more strikes.
You referenced the excellent pitching lab Wake Forest had, and you just used that word metrics. So many analytics and metrics used in baseball, increasingly so as the years go on. And I know you have the opportunity to work with pitchlogic.com. So before we wrap this up, I wanted you to talk about pitchlogic.com and plug the work they do.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, F5 Sports. Actually, I stole a title from Joe Torre. I'm the chief baseball officer. He gave me a card once and I saw that and I had to steal that from him. But it's a baseball actually that has a circuit board inside with a number of sensors surrounded by polyurethane and major league leather. But it gives you all the spin data: total spin, backspin, side spin, rifle spin, along with arm slot spin direction. So all your RPMs, your spin efficiency. You can do 3D tunneling to compare fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. You can compare 5 pitches and see the different looks of everything that you have. And actually, you can, as you're using it and throwing the baseball, and it's all the same major league specs of the Major League Baseball, you can catch all the information you get from the different technology that's out there, wrapped up in a baseball for about $300 at retail. So I appreciate it. Pitchlogic.com. Check it out. It's really a phenomenal product. And Wake Forest uses it pretty extensively, as a matter of fact. And we've got a number of colleges around the country that are using it, as well as every professional organization is using it in one shape or another.
I know a lot of programs, like you kind of just referenced. I know the Charlotte 49ers do it,
Oh, man.
and other programs that do not come to mind right away. But I've seen, separate Twitter accounts from their official baseball account specifically for those metrics, exit velocity off the bat and so forth.
Yeah.
Obviously, the radar gun is something that always entertains the fans when they attend a game, and now they can do so via social media. And with they'll post the replay of a home run and talk about the exit velocities.
Yeah, it's interesting and it has changed, but the bottom line is you still have to go out and play the game of baseball. And I think that's one of the things that we're realizing is you can't just say I throw 99 so I'll be successful, because it just doesn't work that way. And I had a coach say to me the other day that these metrics are going to make pitching coaches obsolete, and I think exactly the opposite. I think they're going to make them even more important, because to have a guy that could combine the understanding and the knowledge of the metrics, how to incorporate those metrics and all that information into making the changes, is really just a way of backing up the same things pitching coaches have been doing for years, teaching you the feel of how to throw your slider and how your slider is better one way or another. Now we've just got the hard data to back up what the eyeballs see and what the pitcher and the pitching coach feel in their gut. And then the other thing is the pitching coach has to be the mom, dad, priest, rabbi, whatever, to send a kid out there every night to get ready to perform. And sometimes it's a pat on the butt, and sometimes it's a kick in the butt. And you've got to understand your pitcher well enough to know what he needs before he goes out there. Because the bottom line is you've got to go out there and you've got to perform every single time you get the chance. And you can't worry about your exit velocity before you've got exit velocity. You can't worry about the radar gun before you get that ball over home plate.
No doubt about it. It's something that folks, especially student athletes, can get overly consumed with, as you say. They have to keep the main thing, and not stray away from those fundamentals and things that make you successful, like you just said. But really appreciate your time this afternoon. Always enjoy our chat, and we'll definitely love to have you back as we move throughout the season. You're going to be obviously seeing the majority, if not all, of these ACC clubs when they play Wake Forest. And so we'll have you back throughout the season a time or two to talk some baseball specifically as it pertains to the ACC.
Glad to do it. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. And if you ever get up to the couch, come on, stop in and see us in the broadcast booth. My partner, Stan Cotton, and I do football together as well. So we have a lot of fun. Believe the game should be fun. College athletics is just so great that it's a lot of fun to be around.
Definitely will do that. I look forward to meeting in person. And now, before we get out of here, and if you have not seen our NCD1 baseball preview interviews up to this point, definitely check those out. And they can be found pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. Also, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. All you have to do is go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and then we have a playlist. We make it easy for you. We give you that easy button to access all 17 of these interviews, and we've had 14 thus far, and we'll be catching up with Elon head coach Mike Kennedy, the longest tenured head coach in the state of North Carolina, also Western Carolina's Bobby Miranda, and then we'll chat with Corey Smith, who's from Pack Pride, about the NC State Wolfpack. And then also here in the next day or two, we'll have a drop from our YouTube channel about Mike Rooney from D1 Baseball joining us to just break down not only East Carolina, the ACC, but just the nation as a whole. So that's always great. Really enjoy our conversations with Mike Rooney. But for Lary Sorensen, I'm Bubba Rosenbaum, and you have been watching and listening to the Sports Objective and specifically the NCD1 Baseball Preview. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.